Right. Off the back of doing a search to see if Sky Sports F1 had made a programme about the safety car rules, or if they'd done one about the rules of engagement for overtaking, um, to show us exactly the illegalities of Max Verstappen's dive bombs in 2021, which I don't receive that they've done that either. Um, when my YouTube search actually came up with this video, I hadn't seen this one before, uh, from the YouTube channel The Race, which has got over 1 million subscribers, and this particular video has got 1 million views. 1 million views. Now I don't know exactly what that translates to in terms of revenue. Maybe somebody, if you've got an idea, write it down in the comment section. I don't know. Based on what I believe my channel generates, I get about 0.1 of a penny for every view, it seems to be. It's not an exact science, because the way you select your ads to come in your videos can increase your revenue, and I don't have it maxed out for revenue because I don't want to have adverts cropping up in the videos all the time. Also, a lot of my videos aren't eligible to be monetized because they contain footage from F1 TV, or they've got music playing in the background, which means that any money goes to the artist of the songs, but the songs are relevant, so I want to play them. But just to give you an idea, since July, when I became monetized, in the month of July, I earned £7.22. August, £24.10. September, £24.08. And so far in October, £3.78. So as you can see, I'm living the dream. But that money is going to go into paying for court fees when we take this fraudulent bastard sport of Formula One to court. And there's going to be significant charges raised against them that they're going to have to answer. They need to be facing criminal charges, but criminal charges need to be pressed by the Crown Prosecution Service and or the Serious Fraud Office. And nobody's doing their fucking jobs. They're just allowing the billionaire-owned companies to get away with fraud. Seems to be the way. It seems as though if you've got enough money, you get away with it. Like billionaire Bernie. If you'd have defrauded the UK tax office by 40 grand, even as much as 400 grand, you'd be in prison. But if you're billionaire Bernie and you fail to declare 400 million, oh, you get to negotiate your sentence then. They leave you alone for a few years and then they, I'll give you a slap on the wrist. You just pay us a bit of a fine, Bernie. There you go. You're okay. That's the way things work in this world. If you've got enough money, you seem to be above the law. Anyway, let's have a look at The Race. Okay, as I say, The Race. Some of you probably subscribed to it. 1 million subscribers. But let's get into this video and go through the bullshit. 9 minutes long. Oh, advert. Let's skip
so
it.
crazy in 2021 that a post-race protest.
And let's start it from the beginning. Let's have a look. And it's called F1's huge Max Verstappen versus Lewis Hamilton Abu Dhabi Grand Prix controversy explained. So,
Formula One has been
right, remember this. What we were presented with live via Sky Sports F1, global TV media coverage was a fraud. It was a fraudulent lie. So you might have watched that. You then would have got the fake validation from Sky Sports and the rest of the global media that Liberty Media contract. Okay? The ones with the media accreditation. So you already got the lied narrative from them. You then might have gone to somewhere like the BBC to see what their version of the accounts is. And that lying bastard, Andrew Benson, he's a corrupt fucker as well, because he just parroted the narrative. He didn't tell the truth. He didn't explain the true reasons. He just gave the same bullshit that he was told to say that, oh, if you want your F1 accreditation pass, Andrew, you've got to say this. And that's what he did. Compliant, fraudulent, corrupt bastard, Andrew Benson of the BBC. You may have gone onto social media to see what social media was saying about it, and obviously you've got people with their opinions, and some people you'll believe what they're saying based on your assessment of whether you think they're telling you the truth or not. And to an individual, you have to make that judgment. And there'll be people watching this channel and they'll be saying, oh, do we believe what he's got to say or do we not? Do we like him? Do we not? What's his evidence? What's his credentials? Do we believe it? Has he got a badge? Has he got a big channel? Are lots of people liking it? So therefore, is it true? Because most people can't assess what is true based on facts. They can't work that shit out for themselves. They're sheep. They have to follow. Oh, lots of people like this, so it must be good, right? So this video, let's go and have a look how many people like this. 22,000 likes. I've just got 1,000 subscribers to my channel, right? 22,000 like this video alone. 1 million have seen it. It's got 7,986 comments. It's got virtually 8 times as many comments as I've got subscribers to my channel, right? So people will go, oh yeah, this must be valid then. This must be useful information for us all to believe, right? So you've heard the bullshit from Sky Sports and the rest of the accredited media. You've then heard that bullshit parroted by BBC, right? And other media sources, all mainstream media channels parroting the same bullshit. Any written media, newspapers, the same bullshit. Magazines, Autosport, Motorsport, parroting the same bullshit. And then you've got YouTube channels, dedicated motor racing YouTube channels, Formula One YouTube channels with 1 million subscribers plus, parroting the same bullshit. So let's go through this and let's expose exactly the nature of the bullshit coming out of their mouth. And I said this immediately, all right, at the time that this happened. I've only been on YouTube less than a year. I took to Facebook for a year in the hope that I could write down exactly what was wrong. Oh, I didn't want to come on YouTube. I didn't want to have to present myself on YouTube to expose the truth. I shouldn't have had to do this. I should not have had to do this. I actually wrote articles and I sent them to media publications for them to expose this so that people could see the truth. And none of the fuckers did. None of the fuckers did. So it made me have to do this. And then you get 1,000 people viewing it. And so whilst you people that are watching this and understand how true this is, get to understand it, maybe it's something that validates something you already know or actually explains it to you in a manner you'd not actually seen before, because nobody had explained it to you this way before, right? Which you should have had explained to you. If you're a fan of any sport, you have the commentary teams explaining what the rules of the sport are to you. But they don't do that in Formula One. Oh, they've just made a video about track limits. Fucking useful that one is, isn't it? Not made one about the safety car rules, have they? Not made one about the rules of engagement for overtaking, where Max Verstappen was getting away without penalty of dive bombing Lewis Hamilton and driving him off the track throughout the 2021 season. No, none of that. No. What we get is bullshit media complying with the narrative, and it's going to take the likes of social media to finally out these corrupt bastards that are actually just feeding the world this contrived show. And that's all it is. It's a contrived show. And you get these fluffer channels like The Race that are just, well, you're going to hear it now. Absolute bollocks, right? Then what have they made off this video? Maybe between £5,000 and £10,000? Who knows? Anyway, let's have a look.
Been so crazy in 2021 that a post-race protest was perhaps just as inevitable as the championship being decided with a final lap pass for the win in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Just listen to that. How amazing is it that that sentence is even real? Wow.
Wow. So you've not told us a lot, have you? Wait there. Just had to check the volume level in the hope that I've got this set right for you to hear what's going on their video. Anyway, let's listen to what they've got to say.
After Max Verstappen won his first World Championship in the most dramatic style possible, Mercedes lodged
the most dramatic style possible. You know, it's you couldn't write it, could you? It's the stuff of fairy tales. It's like in a movie. You know, a competitor winning the championship on the last lap of the last Grand Prix of the season. It's like a film, isn't it? Strange, isn't it? Anyway.
2 protests based on the shenanigans that went on around the late race safety car period.
Shenanigans, we refer to it as shenanigans. Okay, so you are The Race. You are a Formula One expert channel. Okay, and we're calling this shenanigans. You're not exposing to fans the true reality of a situation. So far, you've not exposed what's wrong with it. You know, you're just referring to it as shenanigans.
Proved so decisive. After such a thrilling season, it seemed a shame that the result should be placed into doubt, so more arguing.
After a thrilling season, it's a shame that the result would be into doubt. Okay, let's focus on, it's a shame that there's some sort of protest or that there's some sort of controversy. Well, yes, it is. I'd say it's pretty fucked up what happened. It's not a shame that there's a protest.
Could take place behind the scenes, but did Mercedes have a point, and was it right to lodge the protests? Once the track was cleared following Nicholas Latifi's late race crash that brought out the safety car, Mercedes was furious about the confusion over the lapped cars that were
Mercedes was furious. Okay, so let's focus on the fury of Mercedes. No. And the confusion of the lapped cars. Okay, so what are you telling people? Right, you firstly diverted people's attention to Mercedes being furious. Okay, fuck that off. It's irrelevant. Okay, not interested in Mercedes' fury. The confusion of the lapped cars. Okay, what are you confused about? What are you confused about? Because there is no confusion. This is the terminology that has been projected. This is that gaslighting to you as a fan of the sport to make you think, what's going on there? Is that allowed to happen or isn't it allowed to happen? There's some sort of confusion. Nobody seems to know what's going on here. I do. I can see what's going on here. I know about what the lapped cars, what the rule is, and what the purpose of that rule is. And quite simply, you have to release the lapped cars. You have to give those lapped cars at least one further lap of the safety car to give them the opportunity to catch the back of the pack. That is what you've seen in this sport since that rule was reintroduced back in 2012. Abu Dhabi was the end of the 10th full season since the reintroduction of that unlapping procedure. So I don't know why there's anybody confused as to what needs to happen. Nobody's seen it happen any other way in the last 10 years. So where does the confusion lie? Where the confusion lies is that during that safety car period, you had the Sky Sports F1 commentary team of Martin Brundle and David Croft lying to you about the rules of the sport. That's fucking confusing. That's something that should be raising the alarm bells. You had them saying, oh, and how are they going to let the lapped cars through? I don't think it's mandatory. Well, the rules changed back in 2012. Why are you trying to still lie about them for 10 years? Why are you lying about the rules of the sport? It's because you're hype merchants. You're just a hype job. Facilitating, validating the fix. Okay, so even the option of restarting that race with them lapped cars where they were, not in any way possible. Work it through. It is not possible. And they go, oh, Max has got no chance now with these five lap cars in between him and Lewis. No, it's not even possible to go racing. Read the rules of the sport. It says, if it is safe to do so, right, then lapped cars are released. Right? If it's not safe to do so, it's not safe to go racing. It's as simple as that. Use your head. It's not safe to release the lapped cars, so let's just go racing. What the fuck are you going on about? Who in their right mind would think, well, for some reason, it's not safe to release lapped cars, but it is safe to race? You're retarded. You're fucking retarded if you think that that's possible, and you think that that's what the rules mean. Okay, so if you're the sort of person that believes it's possible to resume racing, but it's not safe to release the lapped cars, but it's safe to go racing, right? You don't have an opinion. You shouldn't be allowed to fucking vote. You shouldn't be allowed to do jury service. You're thick as pig shit that's been dried in the sun. Okay? But this is what they know the audience is. Media, the sport, does its market research. They know the demographic. They know the relative intelligence of their audience. They know that most of you fuckers are thick. Okay, and I'm not talking about the viewers of my channel. I'm talking about the million fuckers that have watched this video. And the fact that 22,000 have liked it. You're thick. You're thick as pig shit that's been dried in the sun. You like this video, and what does it tell you? Nothing. But the sport knows that it's being watched by a load of thick flag wavers that are like, yay, yay, we like this, but you don't know what the fuck it is you're watching. You haven't got a clue. You just have no clue. But you like it. You're excited by it. Yay! Okay? But if it's not safe to release the lapped cars, you have to keep lapping beyond the safety car. So you were lied to. You were lied to about the possibility of resuming that race with lapped cars in situ. You're lied to about this fact that only 5 of the 8. Well, why is that? You can't pick and choose. It doesn't say those that the race director selects. It says once the last lapped car has passed the leader in the safety car, which means the last of all of them. Last of all of those cars. Okay? And then it says the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. Okay? And those lapped cars, 5 of them, were released on lap 57. Which means the procedure wasn't complete, so you can't, until those other 3 are, you can't do anything anyway. You'd still have to do a further lap after those 3 are released. So, Daniel Ricciardo, Lance Stroll and Mick Schumacher never got released. Therefore, we never got to the point where that safety car could complete its mandatory additional lap. So there's the end of your race anyway. It's invalid. Totally invalid. But even if they'd have all gone by on lap 57, lap 58 is a safety car lap. It's a safety car finish. There is no other alternative to that. There is absolutely no alternative. They keep giving you the bullshit about, oh, well, they could have red flagged it. No, they couldn't, because you wouldn't deal with that incident with a red flag in any other Grand Prix. If that sort of incident gets dealt with under safety car at every Grand Prix, you assess what that incident requires. The barrier wasn't going to take too long to actually need repair. There was no medical car needed there for Latifi. It was a typical timescale for the clear of that kind of incident. Safety car. So red flag's not appropriate. That's not an option. And by the time that clear up operation was done, it dictated a safety car finish. We know all this. Those of you that have watched this channel, you know all this. Okay? You know all this. We'll go through this and we'll see what this fucking liar says about it.
Between Hamilton and Verstappen being allowed to unlap themselves ahead of the single lap showdown for the title.
A single lap showdown for the title. Right, so what they're exposing about the single lap showdown for the title. So what we know about Formula One, it's contested over 22, 23 events over the course of the season. At each one, you achieve your race result, you accumulate points, and you add them to the total. And at the end of the season, whoever's got the biggest total of points is the world champion. Simple as that. Doesn't matter how many fucking laps you've led. Doesn't matter how many podiums you've got. Doesn't matter how many you've won. All that matters really is how many points you've accumulated. That's what determines the champion. And who was on course to do that? One guy, Lewis Hamilton. And had the rules of the sport not been purposefully broken, who would have accomplished that? One guy, Lewis Hamilton, right? But now this guy's going, oh, the last lap showdown, okay? As if we've just fucked off the whole season and we're just going to determine the whole season-long championship with just one lap. But what do we know about that lap? We know that one car is on some fresh, soft tyres and one car isn't. And this is for a lap that shouldn't be taking place. So then you've got to start bringing into, oh, Mercedes pit strategy. Nothing to do with Mercedes pit strategy. In accordance with the rules of the sport, they did exactly the right thing. Because that race doesn't restart, you don't need to be on fresh tyres. You don't pit your car and potentially lose track position. That would be foolish. That would be throwing away the title. So they've set up an illegal lap, knowing that one car was significantly advantaged, and they're referring to this as, let's go through that again.
Being allowed to unlap themselves ahead of the single lap showdown for the title.
The single lap showdown for the title, knowing that one guy is now odds on to win. Okay?
Race Control initially declared the lapped cars would not be allowed to pass the leader.
Okay, what's the authenticity of that command? When have you seen that in the last 10 years? You haven't. Okay? Because it's not valid. Okay? The only thing that is valid is overtaking will not be permitted. And that applies to all cars. And that is because it's not safe. And that's because they are lapping behind the safety car. Look at the rules. Look at the wording of the rules. Look at the wording of the command. Lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake. It's not a valid command. It's not in the rules and regulations of the sport. What does this guy say about it? Nothing. Just acts as if it's normal.
Which had incensed Red Bull because it believed it protected Hamilton.
Which incensed Red Bull. Right. It's incensed Red Bull. Right. At this moment in time that banner came up on screen, what was happening at turn 14 of the track? Were there marshals on track? The answer, I'll give you the correct answer in case some of you get it wrong, is yes, there were. That is the reason why it's not safe to release the lapped cars. Hence why they continue to lap behind the safety car until the point where it is safe to release the lapped cars. Giving that message, lapped cars will not allowed to be overtaken, that is a red herring. That's a smokescreen. That is part of creating a narrative. But you're just reinforcing that. You aren't in any way giving... There's no authenticity to what you're saying at all. All you're doing is reinforcing the lies that have already been given to everybody.
Who was on old hard tyres while Verstappen had pitted for fresh softs. But then
lapped cars, and then it lists the 5. Okay. When have you ever seen just a selection of the cars that have been lapped selected to be released?
Then race director Michael Massey changed his mind, ordering only the cars that were between.
Did he change his mind, or is this all part of the gaslighting plot? Looking at the situation in front of him, obviously you couldn't predict, you couldn't write this out well ahead of the game. You had to do it pretty much in the moment. It's not a case of changing your mind. This is facilitating exactly what had been pre-planned as a last lap shootout, knowing that they were going to put Verstappen on those fresh tyres to facilitate it.
Hamilton and Verstappen to get themselves out of the way. Mercedes felt this judgment call was not allowed.
Get them out of the way. Okay, that's not the purpose. That's not the purpose of releasing them, because directly behind Lewis Hamilton was Lando Norris. Prior to Latifi crashing, Lando Norris was closer to Pierre Gasly, and Gasly at the time was in 7th position. Perez retired, boosting Gasly to 6th. Lando Norris got boosted to 7th, but Norris was closer to Gasly than Verstappen was to Hamilton. Because of the safety car, Norris was left a lap behind Gasly. The purpose of releasing Norris and the rest of those lapped cars is so that Norris gets to be directly behind Gasly in the same way that Max Verstappen gets to be directly behind Lewis Hamilton. That's the purpose of the rules, kids. That's the purpose of the rules. Who's telling you this? Oh, they tell you it's so to get them out of the way of the race between the leaders. Utter bollocks. Utter bollocks. They're lying to you. It's part of the narrative. It's lying to you. Lando Norris is still in that race. He's challenging for a point scoring position. You can't be left a lap behind the guy you were previously less than 12 seconds behind just because somebody else has had a crash. Hence, when that safety car is deployed, he gets held back. Gasly disappears off around the track and is now at the end of that safety car snake. That's why you've got to release Norris and all the other lapped cars. They make it around the track, or do their best to, and so they're all formed up in a line in the correct race order, and the time gaps between all them competitors are pretty similar, so that then restart conditions apply uniformly to all competitors. All that they did in Abu Dhabi was ensure that Max Verstappen was less than half a second behind Lewis Hamilton, and they fucked off every other competitor in that race. They didn't give a fuck about what the other drivers were. Carlos Sainz in 3rd position had 2 cars in between him and Max Verstappen, meaning that when he crossed that start-finish line to start that lap 58, he was 2.5 seconds back behind Verstappen. He wasn't able to challenge Max Verstappen. This isn't just a one-lap showdown. This is a Grand Prix. The same event that there's 22 of them same events over the duration of the season. There's no penalty shootout. There's no sudden death, extra time. It's just like a league fixture. You run that race in the same way that you'd run every other race of the season. You pick your points up. You add them points to your season-long total. That's the way the sport works. You can't freestyle this shit on the move. All competitors and teams will make their decisions in accordance with the known rules of the sport. You can't go changing them rules of the sport.
allowed for in the regulations. It believed the rules specified all lapped cars should...
Mercedes believed. Why would they believe that? It's because that's what the rules fucking state. It's not that they believed, okay? It's not that they could be wrong about this. We don't know. There's a bit of confusion. They believed it was... Now, how about you say it's because the rules are that?
Should have been ordered to unlap themselves, so therefore the correct procedures had not been followed.
But you're saying that as if, they're saying that and that's what Mercedes think. But Red Bull were outraged.
More importantly, it also contested that the sporting regulations state that once the last lapped car has passed the leader, the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap.
Introducing Nano
Advert. So here's a bit of money for him.
Car Scratch Repair Spray, your car's ultimate makeover solution.
If that had been applied in this case, then the safety car would have pulled into the pits at the end of the final lap, leaving Hamilton clear to take the checkered flag and win the championship.
If that had been applied in this race, then Hamilton would have won the championship. So why aren't you outraged by that? They've changed the fucking rules of the sport for this race and this race only. And you're just going, but if them rules had been applied in this race, then Hamilton would have been champion. Well, you've just witnessed something where they've just changed the outcome of a sporting world championship by changing the fucking rules. That is fucking outrageous. That is result fixing. That is cheating. What is this world is if you cannot apply rules, known rules, and you then break them without consequence. What kind of society does this world descend into if that is okay? A fucked up one. A completely fucked up society. This is what you're doing. This is what you want. But as long as you're making money, you don't give a fuck, do you? You don't care. As long as you make enough money and people at the top are making money, they don't care.
Because of this, Mercedes requested that the race results be taken from the end of the penultimate lap when Hamilton was still in front. Mercedes also lodged a separate protest against Verstappen's driving under safety car conditions when he pulled alongside Hamilton just before the restart and briefly appeared to edge ahead of the Mercedes.
Well, his nose went ahead, right? The rules are that you're not allowed to overtake when you're behind the safety car or until that race you've crossed the start-finish line. Verstappen's car went ahead of Lewis's car. It doesn't matter whether it's a centimetre, it doesn't matter whether it's 10 centimetres. It went ahead. Had they have crossed the start-finish line in those conditions, that car that's a centimetre ahead is declared the winner, which means it's overtaken it, which has broken the rules of the sport. There's no excuse for it. That's a penalty. That's the way it is. Okay, you can't just overlook. It doesn't matter, does it? He dropped back. No, you broke the rules. You know what the rules are. You broke them. There's a penalty.
Unsurprisingly, Red Bull saw it differently. Team boss
he's a smarmy bastard.
Christian Horner said the decision over the lapped cars was absolutely the right call, except
Christian Horner said that's absolutely the right call. What? It's absolutely the right call because it benefited you, Christian. Absolutely the right call. Just 5 of 8, which is illegal. It's not compliant with the rules of the sport. It's not actually safe to release them because we saw as they went by turn 14 at the end of lap 56, there's still marshals on the track. Which means the earliest that those lapped cars could be released was lap 57, which means lap 58 had to be a mandatory safety car lap, which means it's a safety car finish. But Christian said, that decision was absolutely the right call. No, it's not. It's not in any way. But what you're doing, you're lying to the world, Christian, because it benefits you and you get the result that you want. So you're a lying, corrupt, fraudulent bastard.
Accepting that the Red Bull pit wall was screaming at Masi to get them out of the way so Hamilton and Verstappen could battle it out to the end.
The Red Bull pit wall was screaming at Michael Masi. Screaming at Michael Masi. Right, you get sporting events where people shout at referees. You get football matches where managers and the bench of football teams are shouting at the referee. What does the referee do? Tells them to shut the fuck up. I'm the referee. I'm applying the rules of the sport to this match. I'm the one that's in charge. I'm the one that's refereeing. Shut up. Okay? They're not even there in his vicinity. They're not even directly screaming at him. It's over a radio. It's quite a simple solution. Turn the radio down or turn it off. Shut up, Red Bull. I'm doing my job. I'm not interested in what you've got to say. Okay? If you are that weak that you can be manipulated and influenced by somebody, you're not man enough. You're not the highest caliber of person required to officiate in global sport, in any sort of sport. So therefore, that's no excuse, is it? No excuse whatsoever.
Horner added that it was unheard of to leave the lapped cars in the way, so he praised race control's decision under difficult.
It was unheard of to leave lapped cars in the way. Right, that exactly. It's unheard of because you can't go racing with lapped cars in situ. So Brundle and Crofty were lying during that safety car period, saying, "Oh, you know, when we'll get racing, will they release the lapped cars?" Well, yeah. Either you put it this way: if you can't release them, you end behind the safety car. If you can release them, you do. Simple as that. You know, it's not a case of you can go racing with them left in place. You can't do that. You absolutely cannot do that. But you can only release them when the track is safe, when there's no longer marshals on the track. And if they're there cleaning that track to make that track safe, and you get to lap 57, which is the earliest that those lapped cars can be released, then it means that lap 58 is a safety car lap. It means it's a safety car finish. Are you explaining any of this? Are you explaining any of this? Or are you just... I'm just going to talk you through what happened. I'm not going to tell you whether it is right or wrong. I'm not going to explain to you why it's right or wrong. I'm just going to say it. And by doing so, and by accentuating the things that I'm saying, it will provide validation. And you people that know nothing, you will believe that this is valid reasoning for what took place. That's all this video is. It's absolute bollocks. It's absolute bollocks. And The Race, you know, with its million subscribers, I made themselves 10 grand off of a bullshit video that's educated nobody. Yet 22,000 people like it. Oh, we like that. We think that that's great. 8,000 of them have given their opinions about it because they think that they've learnt something from it. Bullshit.
Difficult circumstances with both title chasing teams shouting at them from the pit wall.
Difficult circumstances for the race director because both teams are shouting. Simple solution, as I've already said. Turn the radios off. Shut up. Okay? Get off the radio. Shut up. You know what this is about. You're not going to influence what's going on here.
And we'll come back to that particular scenario in a little bit. Unsurprisingly, Red Bull didn't agree with the steward's decision not to investigate the lap 1 incident between Hamilton.
Oh, we're bringing lap 1 in. We're bringing into there the dive bomb. Okay, whereby had Lewis Hamilton not have left the track, there would have been a collision. Okay, because Max Verstappen has sent it late after the braking zone, where Lewis Hamilton has the right to that corner, as what took place all season. Max Verstappen sends it, so Lewis Hamilton sees it coming and just gets himself out of the way of it so he doesn't get taken out. Okay, and then they go, oh, he needs to give that position back. No, No, you need to apply the rules of the sport and penalise Max Verstappen for driving his car at another car. And unless that other car yields, there is a crash. And he got away with it all season. Okay, but you're bringing this back in. Red Bull think that he should have been penalised for that. Of course you would, Red Bull, because once again, you lie about this all season. You incite the crazies. We've got a few of them as subscribers to the channel. You incite the crazies. Okay. Oh, Lewis nearly killed Max at Silverstone. Lewis nearly killed him. Utter bollocks. Max drove across Lewis's nose. Right? Oh, Lewis nearly killed him. Karun Chandhok gives it the bullshit. Oh, Lewis sent it up the inside and chucked it up the inside at Copse Corner. No, he didn't. Lewis was decelerating. Max was the one that threw it and chopped himself across. If you actually know anything about the sport, if you can just look with your own eyes at what happened, you can see exactly the truth of the incident. But instead, the crazies go believing what they want to believe.
Hamilton and Verstappen. Horner said he couldn't understand why Hamilton wasn't asked to hand the position back, but he summed things up.
Right. Of course you wouldn't, Christian, because again, you've been lying all season, you've been inciting the crazies.
Perfectly when he said, but that's all history now. Never a truer word, Christian. Never a truer word. Next up, we're going to explain why the protests failed, but very quickly, if you're not yet subscribed to our channel, but you're enjoying what you're seeing here, feel free to hit that button anytime to join our ever...
No thanks, and I'm not enjoying what I'm saying, not in the slightest.
...expanding crew of motorsport fans.
Of why the protests failed. Oh, let's see what their analysis of why the protests failed.
The first verdict we received from the stewards was the straightforward one. They accepted that Verstappen did end up ahead of Hamilton before the restart for a very short period of time, but they were satisfied.
Doesn't matter. Did he commit an offence? Did his car go ahead of another car during a safety car period? Answer, yes. Black and white, penalty.
Satisfied that Verstappen got himself back behind Hamilton as quickly as he could.
Did you see that as well? Deposit not refunded. So if you are doing a protest to the FIA, you have to pay a fee. And the stewards, although that was a valid protest, look, the rules state a car is not allowed to go ahead of another car during a safety car period. That's what the rules state. That car went ahead of that car. That's a fact. That happened. And the stewards have gone, yeah, but we didn't think it went ahead for very long. So we're keeping your money. What the fuck? That's how mad this is. That's how mad this whole corrupt shit show is.
At a time when both cars were accelerating and braking in anticipation of the restart. But let's get on to the more meaty decision. The stewards accepted that the rules around letting lapped cars through before a restart were not applied fully, but they...
Not applied fully. The rules weren't applied fully. So therefore the rules aren't applied, are they? You've broken the rules of the sport. The rules weren't applied fully. So you've broken the rules of the sport. Let's use the right terminology here. You've broken the rules of the sport.
They added that this was overridden by the next article.
Oh, it's overridden. It's overridden. Okay. So you go through this, and I've done this in other videos, that one rule overrides another. No, it doesn't. It's a sequence of rules. It's a sequence of procedures. One doesn't override. It's just you do this, you do this, you do this, then you do this, then you do this. None of them override. You do them in order of what you need to do them in. Okay? And then it's almost as though they present, oh, well, one of them's mandatory, but the rest aren't. Oh, once you say the safety car in at the end of this lap, then it's mandatory that the safety car must come in. Well, there's other rules which say once a last lap car has been released. Well, that's mandatory. Why are you not focused on the fact that that's mandatory? There's one that says the the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. That's mandatory. That didn't happen. But you're saying once a notification safety car in this lap has been given, then it's mandatory it must come in. That's the only one that's mandatory out of all the other ones, is it? Utter bollocks. Absolute bollocks. So what you're doing, you're making your own reasons as to what is valid and what isn't based on the outcome that it generates that you wanted to generate. That's called fixing. That's called cheating. That's called contriving the outcome of a sport. And so trying to pick and choose which ones are mandatory and which ones aren't, which ones are optional, which ones you can override and which ones you can't. No, they've all got equal validity. But again, this doesn't break it down. The race doesn't break down the truth. All they do is say, oh, and this happened, and this happened. And it's all valid. Utter bollocks.
Of the sporting regulations. Article 48.13 states that once the message safety car in this lap has been displayed, it is mandatory to withdraw the safety car at the end of that lap.
So there you go. That's the only one that's mandatory, is it? That's the only one that's mandatory. Once the last lapped car, okay, so that means the eighth of the eighth lapped cars. Once the last lapped car has passed the leader in the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. That's what the regulation, I think it's 48.12 says. That didn't happen. That's mandatory. But according to the FIA, they will say, oh, no, that one's not mandatory, but this one is. This one's mandatory, but everything else, no, that's not mandatory. Bullshit. Absolute garbage that everybody that doesn't know, because they don't know the purpose, they don't know the reason, they're just like, oh, well, is it mandatory, is it not? Well, the FIA, they've said that it's not, but this one's mandatory. Yeah, that's all right then, isn't it? Because they don't know, because they've not been educated, because it's on purpose. If the sport has got an ignorant, thick, uneducated audience, it can get away with feeding them any old bullshit and they'll eat it. Because they don't know any different. This is how you get away with corruption. This is how you get away with corruption. By keeping people dumb.
Elsewhere in the sporting regs, Article 15.3 gives the race director overriding authority over the use of the safety car.
On what grounds? On what grounds? It is on the ground of safety and sporting fairness, because it's underpinned by the FIA International Sporting Code. That use of the safety car cannot be utilised to create a race-off between just two competitors in a Grand Prix. That is exactly how it was utilised. That is not a valid usage. The race director cannot pick and choose who he is going to allow to race for victory in a Grand Prix. That doesn't comply with the FIA International Sporting Code. Do you tell us any of this, the race? No, you don't, do you? You just validate. You make it sound as though, oh, well, this in itself is a valid enough reason for Michael Masi to do what he did, which is again parroting the bullshit narrative that the entire world has been fed about this.
Which the steward said included its deployment and withdrawal.
Nope. Like I say, its deployment is on the... Yes, the race director can choose to deploy the safety car. And that's what he does. Right, I think that the track conditions are dangerous. I'm going to put the safety car out. That's what he can do. Right? It can be if it's torrential rain and he thinks that it's not safe for racing, he can put the safety car out for that. If there's an incident and there's something on track, whether that be a crash car, whether that be marshals, whether that be protesters, whatever it might be, whether there's debris on the track, he can put the safety car out. That's the deployment. That's his discretion. Yes, that's what he can do. but he can keep that safety car out on track, because if he doesn't feel it's safe to go racing, he can keep it there. Once he's carried out those procedures which you have to carry out before you go racing again, which are, if there's any of the cars that have been lapped and fall within the criteria that enables them to be unlapped, okay, which are stated in the rules, you release those lapped cars and you give them at least one lap of that safety car further with which to try to catch the back of the pack. If he doesn't feel that those cars have caught up sufficiently, he can keep that safety car out on track, which I've proven the race director has done on numerous occasions. It is what it's purpose for. It's what this rule is there for. Okay, the race director has it at his discretion the ability to extend that safety car period to enable sporting fairness to all their competitors in the race. It doesn't give him discretion to pick and choose who gets to challenge for the win of a race. That is going to manipulate the result of a race. That's going to be called race fixing. That's not what you're allowed to do in sport. You can't have a referee freestyle the rules to manufacture outcomes. That's what's happened. That's exactly what has happened. And this guy is just normalising that.
As for Mercedes' request to base the results on the positions at the end of the penultimate lap, the stewards deemed it was not appropriate to take a...
Oh, it's not appropriate. So what you do at the point in time where there's been a clear rule break, where the rule break happened on lap 57, because only 5 of the 8 cars were released, and then they called the safety car in. That's breaking the rules. So therefore, lap 58 is invalid. Simple as that. So therefore, lap 58 is void. The race result gets declared as being the running order at the end of lap 57. That would have been the running order at the end of lap 58 as well, because you can't go racing again. You can't overtake. That's the valid result. Oh, but no, we don't think that's appropriate. But what's more appropriate is a cheated result. Okay, that's called race fixing. That's called purposefully manipulating the outcome of an event. That's called a fraud. That's called a fix. But this guy's normalising it. Oh, I'm just telling you what happened. But you're doing a report about this. You're explaining it, but you're not, are you? You're not exposing anything. You're not challenging it. You're not saying why it's wrong.
Measure that would shorten the race distance retrospectively.
Right. Oh no, well, we can't do that because it shortens the race, so it's not right to... Right, so what you do, you've cheated, you've broken the rules, and rather than declare the end of the race to be the last point in time where things were still valid, oh no, we can't shorten it, so we have to keep it there, and include the bit that is totally corrupt. That's the fairer thing to do. That's how ridiculous this is. That's their justification. Oh no, we can't shorten the race at all, even though there's been plenty of Grand Prix that have been shortened and a result declared. Oh no, that's not appropriate to do that. So we have to keep the end result, even though it was wrong, even though the rules weren't fully applied. Well, even though you broke the rules, as we stated, that means you've broken the rules. That's a more appropriate thing to do. Really.
As well as Mercedes and Red Bull submitting evidence in the hearing, race director Michael Massey...
Red Bull submitted evidence in the hearing. So this is Mercedes protesting to the governing body of the sport that the governing body's race director had not applied the rule to the sport, had broken the rules of the sport, and was asking the governing body to rule on that, which is quite a simple process. Here are your rules. Your race director has broken the rules. We require this to be amended in accordance with this appeal system. Oh, Red Bull are there. What are you doing there, Red Bull? You have nothing to do with this. Okay, our appeal is against the race director and the governing body. It's nothing to do with you, Red Bull. You were beneficiaries of their corruption. Okay, you don't get a word in this. You're not even allowed into this room. But Red Bull presented. Again, what are you saying about that? The race. You experts of the sport with 1 million subscribers. What are you saying about that? The race.
He made his own contributions. He said that the purpose of Article 48.12 regarding lapped cars was to remove any cars that would interfere with the racing between the leaders.
Lies. Absolute lies, Michael Massey. Okay, because in Spain 2019, in Brazil 2019, in Sakhir 2020, and in somewhere else 2020, can't even remember. Emilia Romagna, I think it was, but it could have been somewhere else. He kept the safety car out for 2 laps after those lap cars had been released, to enable those lapped cars to make it around to the back of the pack before he resumed racing. If the purpose was, as you're saying here, Massey, just to get them out of the way so they didn't interfere, you wouldn't have given them those 2 laps. You gave them those 2 laps for sporting fairness, to give sporting fairness to every competitor in that event. You neglected the chances of all of those competitors in that event. You set it up for only Max Verstappen to have that chance, in full knowledge that Max Verstappen had got fresh soft tyres as opposed to Lewis's hard tyres. You're facilitating the fix. And then you're lying about the purpose of the rules. But who's telling you about what the rules are there for? Nobody. Sky Sports F1 aren't making programmes telling you about the purpose of the rules and why they are what they are. The race isn't making programmes telling you about the purpose of the rules and why they are what they are. Instead, they're coming out with this fluffer validating video. Oh yeah, the sport of F1. They're reaching out to you, the race. They'll give you a special interview with this Formula 1 person, which is going to allow you to make another video, which will make you another £5,000 or £10,000. Oh yeah, you keep in with us, the race. Yeah, you just keep telling everybody what you want, what we want you to tell everybody. Get them to like it. Get them to believe it. Get them to think that you're educating them. Absolute bollocks.
Red Bull also suggested that the wording regarding any lapped cars does not mean all lapped cars.
Any does not mean all. What a wank argument. Once the last lapped car. Okay? That overrides this argument of any doesn't mean all. Anybody that seeks to argue that is a corrupt wanker. Right? Trying to use semantics, the meaning of words, to try and provide validation for their corrupt argument. Okay? If you need to try and go, oh well, but technically this word doesn't necessarily mean that, you're a prick, right? Because you've got to look at the context of the situation. Simple as that. What is actually going on here? What's happening? Oh well, that word doesn't mean that. Shut the fuck up, mate. Okay? Look at what's going on. That outcome that you're proposing, due to that interpretation of the word meaning, is clearly wrong. So clearly you're fucking wrong about how you're trying to interpret the meaning of that word. Shut the fuck up. Simple as that. So anybody that proposes that is a wanker, and just fuck off.
Cars, but that dictionary debate was not referenced by the stewards in their decision. Massey also pointed out they had long been agreed by all teams that where
that dictionary fucking meaning was not referenced. You need to get the dictionary out to interpret rules of a sport. Those rules that have been in existence for 10 years, that have been accepted by all teams for 10 years, that Red Bull accepted and benefited from in numerous events within those 10 years. And now we're getting the dictionary out. Oh, well, that word, it can mean something else. Wankers.
where possible, it was highly desirable for the race to end under racing conditions.
It's highly desirable to finish under. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about what's highly desirable. What matters is that you run an event in accordance with the rules of the sport. Any desire is for what? For media, for marketing, for hype, for the show. Like, sport is sport. Okay? Sport is sport. It's a contest, it's a competition played in accordance with the rules of that sport. If something happens, you apply the rules of that sport. If that means that in Formula One, in motorsport, you can have the last few laps of the race which are uncontested because a safety incident is being dealt with, which means you can't race during that period. That's what happens. That's the rules of the sport. That's a known thing. Okay? Oh, but it's highly desirable to have a race. I don't give a shit what you desire. The rules are what they are. And they're there for a purpose, and that is safety. You can't go, oh yeah, but we wanted a racing finish, so we just did whatever we could to make that happen. All irrelevant, all bollocks. Because if there's an incident that needs dealing with, it gets dealt with. And therefore, if it's not possible to resume racing, you don't resume racing. We've had plenty of safety car finishes before. Plenty. So, again, don't try and come out with validation.
Rather than behind a safety car, meaning the actions he took to accelerate the restart process were justified.
Accelerate the restart process. So you did it with consideration to who? Did you do that with consideration to Lewis Hamilton, whose team would have determined its strategy regarding whether to pit or not based on the rules of the sport? No, you didn't. You didn't consider Lewis Hamilton one bit. Did you do it with consideration to Max Verstappen? Absolutely you did. You broke the rules of the sport to give him that chance, knowing that he was in a significantly advantaged position. Did you do it for Carlos Sainz in third? No, you didn't, because you left two lapped cars in the way of Carlos Sainz, leaving him 2.5 seconds behind Max Verstappen. So you left third place unable to challenge for victory, because you're not catching 2.5 seconds in one lap. Did you do it for Valtteri Bottas in fourth? Well, no. What happened? You left Valtteri Bottas on what should have been a safety car finish. They started that lap in fourth. He got relegated down to sixth because two cars, the two Alpha Tauris that were both on soft compound tyres too, they overtook him on that illegal lap. So he lost 2 positions. So you screwed him. That should have been a safety car finish. What you did is, in order for that race to go and resume, Lando Norris had to be given the opportunity to catch Pierre Gasly. Because, as I said, Lando Norris was closer to Gasly than Verstappen was to Hamilton at the point in time Latifi crashed. You had to give Norris that chance. So for that, if that race was going to resume validly, Norris would have had the same chance of attacking Gasly as Verstappen had to Hamilton. Norris was left over 2/3 of a lap behind Gasly. That's not with the consideration to him, is it? And on that lap that they released, those 5 cars that were released, they can't overtake each other on that lap. And so when they actually cross the line to begin their lap 58, they're not nose to tail with just half a second gap between them, where they're all going slow, all bunched up, and then the leader accelerates at one point, say just a couple of turns before the lap starts, and then tries to get the gap. No, them 5 lap cars, as they go around that track, the gaps between them extend to about a second and a half. So the restart of their lap 58 is not the same as the restart for everybody else's. It's just not valid in any way. It's not safe. It's not fair to any of those competitors. You've set that scenario up for one person and one person only, and that's Max Verstappen. There's so much wrong with this, and nobody's saying anything about it.
So effectively, while one rule around the safety car process wasn't followed to the letter, the stewards felt that the actions of Masi were covered well enough by...
One rule wasn't followed to the letter. Right, one rule wasn't followed to the letter. Well, the fact that you only let 5 of 8 cars, that's part of it that's not been followed. And the fact that you didn't complete the mandatory safety car lap after, well, firstly, the last lap car wasn't released. So you couldn't then do the other bit. So that's completely broken the rules, broken the procedure. It's not valid to restart, but you're validating the restart.
Other areas of the sporting regulations.
Oh, another advert.
Listen, there's a good chance somebody's trying to hack your website right now. You got...
While this all makes for a great soap opera and Netflix
Overshadowed a great season. Right. A great season as a season where Max Verstappen should have been banned prior to Abu Dhabi for all his infringements. He should have received penalty points on his licence and wasn't given any. Okay, for the infringements that he did. He ran another car off the track on at least 5 occasions. Oh, we call that let them race. Right? No. You're not allowed to do that. It doesn't comply with the rules of engagement in the sport. It results in penalty points for dangerous driving. What example are you setting to kids? What example are you setting to drivers that are in the lower formulas, that if they start driving like that and they're not up against people that have got the ability of Lewis Hamilton to avoid them collisions, are putting themselves in danger, putting drivers at risk of significant harm, injuries and potentially death? The FIA are responsible for that. The FIA are responsible for allowing that example to be set to kids. Dangerous driving, dangerous motor racing, absolutely not acceptable, not penalised. And you're describing this as a fucking incredible season. No, you've just facilitated one guy driving filthy just to be given every possible chance of overcoming Lewis Hamilton. That's what you had to do. That's what you had to do to beat the guy. And you still couldn't do it. You still couldn't do it. You allowed a guy to try and run him off the track time and time and time again, and you still couldn't beat him. In a faster car, and you still couldn't beat him. You still couldn't do it. You had to cheat. And then you lie and get the media to lie. That's what you had to do.
Netflix is surely rubbing its hands together for the 4th season of Drive to Survive. Ultimately, it was a shame for the championship celebration.
It was a shame for the championship. No, well, what's the biggest shame? The biggest shame is that Lewis Hamilton never got to that moment of glory. That's the biggest shame. When he became a record-breaking 8-time world champion, he was robbed of that moment. That historic moment that should have been in his mind for the rest of his life. Should have been the iconic moment that's replayed at every highlights reel for this sport. Lewis Hamilton becoming an 8-time world champion. And the world has been robbed of that. Through corruption, through cheating, through race manipulation, through fucking race fixing that the media has lied about. Liberty bastard media and the rest of the whole media machine has lied about this. It is corrupt. That's the shame. It's robbed the world of a truly iconic sporting moment, and it's been replaced with a fake bullshit prick of a human being being made a fake champion. You're really happy with that, aren't you? Well done you, Formula One. Well done you, Sky Sports F1. Well done you, Liberty Media. Well done the FIA. You put up this prick boy, Max Verstappen, as an example to the kids. And a true legend, a true icon, a true great of the sport. You thought you'd deprive him. That's the calibre of people. That's the calibre of individuals you bastards are.
To have the shine taken off them by the protests and hearings that went.
Oh, it's Red Bull have had the shine taken off them. Poor fucking Red Bull. Let's all feel sorry for Red Bull. Red Bull are the victims in this.
On post-race. And there could still be more to come, with Mercedes announcing its intention to appeal the second of the verdicts. That gives...
Right, Mercedes are corrupt. Toto Wolff, you are corrupt as well. You're a billionaire. You know, you own a third of the Mercedes team. You're an extremely wealthy man. You made your decisions in the interest of your financial interests, not in the interest of the sport of Formula One, not in the interest of integrity, not in the interest of Lewis Hamilton. You know what you are, and you know what your motives are. You're not a good man.
Gives it a 72-hour window to decide if it wants to go through with taking the matter to the FIA International Court of Appeal. As
you know, they've got these grand titles, the FIA International Court of Appeal. They're all corrupt as fuck. You've got the World Motorsport Council. Oh, we the people that then get to approve what the FIA have decided. Corrupt as fuck. Nobody has scrutinised the validity of any of this. They've just said, oh, yeah, that's all right. You've said that, yeah, that's what you want to happen. Yeah, that's what we'll sign that off. That's not a problem. It's corrupt. Just corrupt. A lot of them are corrupt as fuck.
As we said at the beginning of this video, it seemed almost inevitable that this most dramatic and fractious of championship battles would end up with...
Why is that? Why is it a fractious championship battle? Because what? The governing body has enabled Max Verstappen and Red Bull to get away with all season. The lies that Christian Horner has incited the crazies and the haters with all season. The narrative. I heard today on the bullshit commentary from Sky Sports F1 when Max Verstappen was being booed on the podium, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, well, F1's now is a partisan got a partisan following. You know, fans pick their drivers and their teams, and they boo the other ones. Never used to happen. And it was never quite like that. You've made it that way. You've incited the conflict. You did it on purpose. It made you money. That's what you do. You like the conflict if it makes you money. Happens in other parts of the world as well. This is what's truly disgusting. If it makes you money, you support it.
With drama off track and on it. Nobody wanted to see Mercedes and Red Bull personnel walking back and forth to the stewards' offices after the race.
And they shouldn't have had to, if it hadn't been corrupt. Simple as that. I wouldn't be making this video if it wasn't corrupt. If it was right, nobody would be doing this. How many other sports are people presenting about absolute out and out corruption, right? That's not being investigated by the authorities that are tasked with investigating corruption.
Even Verstappen rolled his eyes and said the protest summed up the season.
Even Verstappen rolled his eyes. Right, you've just been given the championship. It's coming under scrutiny, and you've rolled your eyes.
Mercedes even brought its own legal counsel with it to Abu Dhabi in anticipation of such a scenario.
See, again, this is a smokescreen. Brought its own legal counsel. That is to fool the thick twats, the 22,000 people that have liked this video and think they've been educated about this. Oh, well, if Mercedes bought a barrister and the barrister couldn't overturn it legally, then it must have been okay. No. It's there as a smokescreen, okay? Because, quite frankly, if you're a barrister, you'd say, well, what the fuck are Red Bull doing here in this stewards' appeal? Okay, get them fuckers out of the way in the first instance. That's what you do, because they've got no part in this. So if you know anything about law, you know what's applicable and what isn't. But that's just a smokescreen. That's just there to make people think, oh, well, if they've got a legal counsel and their legal team can't pick out anything that's wrong with it, then it must be okay. Toto Wolff, why weren't you in that appeal? If this was the most important appeal that your team had to do ever, you didn't go. Where were you? What were you doing, Toto Wolff? Got to ask questions of you there, Toto. You should have been in that appeal. But you weren't there. You didn't show up. Why?
Although we understand that was predominantly in case of a controversial incident between the two drivers in battle, rather than the FIA potentially making a mess of its own procedures.
Making a mess of its own procedures. So this is it's a mess, it's an error, it's controversy, it's confusion. This is the fucking bullshit. These are the words, these are the descriptors that you're given for corruption, for out and out lies, and out and out manufacturing a fucking contrived ending to something. And they're the words that they use to describe it. And this is the facade that's being given to validate it and make it all seem just all a bit of a mess. No. You cheated. You did it on purpose. You contrived an outcome. It's fraud. People bet on that. People paid money to witness authentic sport. They got defrauded from that because you contrived it. That's not sport. You disqualify cheats. If the governing body is guilty of cheating, people go to prison. People go to prison for corruption. Anybody that's involved in that corruption goes to prison. That's what happens. Who's doing anything about it? Who is doing anything about this? There are global law enforcement agencies. Interpol, the FBI, the UK Serious Fraud Office. What the fuck are any of these people doing? Turn a blind eye. Oh, it's Formula One, isn't it? It's billionaires involved in Formula One and all the billionaire companies that sponsor it. It's all big business. Oh, we can't touch that. They can afford expensive lawyers. Don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if they can afford to pay for anybody that wants to charge them 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 grand a day for their services. They're not right. And nothing they can say can make them right because it will just be lies. There's a simple black and white truth in this. It just is what it is. You can't argue otherwise. It just is what it is. Oh, any doesn't mean shut up. Shut the fuck up with any doesn't mean all, because clearly in this set of circumstances, what I've explained to you is the truth. So there is no argument. Doesn't matter how expensive your lawyer is, because what actually matters is whether your judge is corrupt or not. Because if your judge is corrupt and has been paid off to make the decision, that's what's going to be ruled, isn't it? The legal system. The legal system. Justice for those who can afford it.
That strategy didn't sit well with
Or the version of justice that money can buy.
Red Bull, with Horner saying on Sunday night it was a shame Mercedes had taken that step, before adding that Red Bull doesn't go racing with barristers. He also called Mercedes' original protests a little bit desperate.
Yes. Well, there's a word that rhymes with hunt that best describes Christian Horner, but I'd better not use that in this particular video.
And given how brilliant Verstappen and Hamilton have been this season, for their unforgettable battle to end under a cloud of protests and potentially an appeal doesn't seem right.
Oh, for it to end under a protest or appeal doesn't seem right. Fluff. 1 million views of a video that doesn't tell anybody anything. Exposing the bollocks, and my video gets seen by 400 or 500 people. This is the world we live in. You tell the truth, you expose the reality of something, and you're a little voice that doesn't get heard. And what does get heard is the narrative. The mainstream media and these fluffers that want to link up and make their money off the back of it. And because they're parroting the narrative, the mainstream media offer some little incentives. The sport, the corrupt entity, offers them little incentives. Oh, we like you. You're doing what we're wanting you to do. You're just reinforcing the corrupt message that we want to give everybody. We'll pat you on the back. There. We'll promote your channel. You get truth tellers and they get suppressed. They're the ones that get silenced. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, you are. You're a conspiracy theorist. What's theory about what I've said? What's theory about anything that I've said? This is a clear conspiracy. There are parties conspiring to contrive a result because you can't do it on your own. F1 TV showed you what you saw. That is a construct. Sky Sports F1 lied to you about the rules of the sport, gaslighting you, getting you to believe that certain things could take place which couldn't take place. They're two different parties. The FIA broke the rules of the sport. That was Michael Massey and at least 10 other people in race control. It's not just Michael Massey there on his own. At least 10 people there. All know about the rules of the sport. All seeing this rule break. All knowing the implications of breaking that rules. Red Bull playing their part. Lying about the rules of the sport. These fake-ass radio messages that got broadcast by F1 TV. Okay, they were scripted. Look at the way that they were fed in. The 4 stewards not upholding the rules of the sport, allowing the fix. These things don't happen by chance. They don't happen by chance. There are at least 4 parties involved. That's conspiring. No conspiracy theory. It is parties conspiring to defraud.
This year we've had better insight than ever before into what goes on behind the scenes between the teams and the FIA during races, with the addition to the TV broadcasts of the radio chatter between the teams and Michael Massey.
And because people started to understand it and see the bullshit that's going on, what have they done since then? We're no longer going to show the world that. We're no longer going to show you what decisions are being made by the FIA. We're just going to tell you that's what they are. And what have we ever seen since? More favouring of Red Bull and Max Verstappen.
During that final safety car period, those communications descended into farce, with both team bosses shrieking at Massey anytime they felt he was...
Those communications descending into farce, both teams shrieking. Right, let's focus on how the teams are shouting at the referee. Well, that's not the problem here. Simple solution to that, turn the radios off. The problem is the fact that the TV company showed you one thing. It was backed up with what the commentators were saying about the situation, lying about the rules of the sport. Red Bull seemed to know what was going on and said their script. The FIA broke the rules of the sport. This is a contrivance. This is the problem, not the fact that 2 teams are screaming at the referee. That's not the issue, is it?
Making a decision that went against them. Yes, the stakes will never be higher again at the end of a safety car period for as long as F1 exists, but does that excuse grown men howling down a radio channel to the person trying to call the show?
Grown men howling down a radio channel. Look at what he's focusing on now. Making out as if that is the one of the cruxes of the problem here. No, it's not.
Shots. In the end, it escalated to a level of shouting and whining that was more suited to a bunch of footballers surrounding a referee.
Shouting and whining, right? There would be no need to shout and whine. Mercedes would not be shouting and whining if Michael Massey wasn't breaking the rules of the sport. Why are Red Bull getting on the radio to request that the rules of the sport are being broken? That should be the issue. Why are you not actually asking that question?
rather than the crucial decisive moments of a Formula One season. The question is it right for teams to have that much access to the race director in the heat?
That's not the question, is it? I've just told you what question to ask. You haven't asked it. Is it right that Red Bull are getting onto the race director, asking him to break the rules of the sport, when they know what the rules of the sport is because they've experienced them and raced under them rules for the previous 10 years? So you do know Red Bull. And then, if the race director doesn't break the rules, then what's Mercedes? Mercedes don't need to be on there, do they? No, Michael, no, that is so not right. Well, if things are right, you don't need to make that message. If he doesn't break the rules, you don't get Mercedes complaining that he's broken the rules. Simple. Pretty simple.
Heat of the moment for the purposes of lobbying, or should they be told to back off and let him get on with his job?
Well, you're a corrupt fucker, Michael Massey. Simple as that. Corrupt fucker that's been protected.
Everybody wanted this epic championship fight to be decided on the track. And from a neutral's perspective, it doesn't get much better than a last lap pass for the race win and the championship.
It doesn't get better than a last lap pass. No, because it's not authentic. There's the best thing about sport is the fact that it's authentic. When something happens which is an iconic moment, it's an iconic moment because it's authentic. It's not iconic when it's contrived.
Unfortunately, fears or expectations that the destiny of the championship would then play out in the stewards' room also came to pass. But when the
destiny of the championship would play out in the stewards' room, why would there ever be need for that? If something was wrong. And it was wrong. It was wrong, big style. You cheated the true champion out of their accomplishment. That's one of the worst things that can happen in any sport. It's absolutely vile.
Finally settles on the madness of F1 2021, how will you remember this incredible season? Will the lasting memory be of two world-class talents pushing each other to ever-increasing heights, or will the legal wranglings and off-track bitterness between the teams forever dampen your view of a thrilling championship?
Well, we're almost 2 years past the event, and we can all answer that question. There's no authenticity whatsoever to that so-called title win by Max Verstappen in 2021. Not one iota of authenticity to it. Never will be, because he's not the champion. Lewis Hamilton is a 2021 world champion. 2022, Max Verstappen was allowed to compete in an illegal car, a car that was developed with a breach of the regulations of the sport. That's a disqualification. But he was enabled to win that season in an illegal car. And that's rolled over onto 2023 too. And this is the shit that they expect us to keep watching. And the 22,000 people that like this video, they'll be watching, they're still enjoying it. They're still having a lovely time. Because they're that brain dead, they don't know any different.
Let us know what you think in the comments. Give this video a thumbs.
Let us know what you think in the comment section. Can't wait for your insightful opinions. That's what people love. They love to give their opinion. You know, the people that subscribe to this channel, there are some extremely intelligent people. Let's face it, most of you that have subscribed to this channel, you're doing it because you're equally outraged with what is going on. And so I do value what you've got to say. And what your comments do is they broaden all of our understanding, because there's different facets that maybe one person sees or another sees that help us all connect all the things that are so wrong. We've got people that subscribe to the channel have purposely subscribed just to troll and just to try and disrupt. They'll soon be gotten rid of. I'll explain that in a video I've got coming in the next couple of weeks. Just keep a a record of any abuse that you get, any trolling that you get, each and every one of you, because nobody should be subjected to that. But this is what it's about. It's about clicks. Let us know what you think. Like, subscribe. This is all the bullshit. This is all they want. Nobody's telling the truth.
Thumbs up if you've enjoyed our rundown of everything that happened on Sunday night. And to keep up with every major development in the world of Formula One and to keep yourself entertained during the off-season, make sure you're subscribed to our channel.
So that was their rundown. Right? That was their rundown. What has that taught you? Taught you nothing. It exposed nothing. In the same way that no mainstream media has exposed the truth and still hasn't exposed the truth. The BBC's Andrew Benson has never exposed the truth. He is funded by the UK licence fee payer. British licence fee payer. That man is a Max Verstappen fluffer. Everything that he writes is, Super Max, Super Max. Everything, right? That's every article. It's all about how great Max Verstappen is. No, he's not. Max Verstappen is driving this illegal rocket ship of a car that is just on a different planet, and you're trying to tell us that we're watching one of the greatest ever drivers. Utter bollocks. You could put a squirrel in that car, it'd probably win every Grand Prix. Right? So, Andrew Benson, you're a lying, corrupt bastard that's never told the truth. And the reason I'm so annoyed with you, Andrew Benson, is because I keep sending you information that you never put out. That's corrupt. You know the truth, and you still keep parroting the narrative. When is the truth going to come out about Abu Dhabi? Well, I'm not going to stop until it does. So, fuck you, Formula One. You're a corrupt bunch of bastards, and eventually you're going to be taken down and you're going to be exposed for exactly what you are.